classical spot here at Lake Berensee, with a truly classic aroma. And here it really seems to be getting started well, and that completely without ground bait mix. And next up, the next white Amur. Yes, I'm currently testing a classical spot, namely with the bait combination that the soup just wrote to me. And so here now, repeatedly at this spot, the gold tench was caught. Yeah, first tench that's just going in here. And as I said, all so far here, completely without ground bait mix. And what of course I'm also testing straight away, here at the spot are three different rig types. All three with pop-up, corn, maize, raspberry. So once all three same bait, but as said, different rig types. And now of course the big question, which rig type is the most interesting? And that as said so far, completely without ground bait mix, hook baited, cast out, and the fish are coming in. Just as it should be, very simple. And that with relatively simple rig setups, namely all three are pop-up. Pop-up corn, really nice basic. This is how it looks here right now. Well, 10 minutes at the spot just, and yes, the first fish was immediately 23 kilograms white Amur. So he was immediately up for it. Even though I'm here with such a really nice little bait, even so big Amur are biting on it here. Well, and ideal of course, if right away also a gold tench comes in. That would of course be really nice. Tinch is already a good sign. Gold tench makes the whole thing of course even more interesting. That means I'm testing here initially also still without ground bait mix. Leave the entire spot just as it is. That means I do not influence the populations with ground bait mix, and I take the spot as it is. And then we watch now for a while what else comes in here. At the moment here, at least on the bait, lots of white Amur. That would mean if one just wants to go for mass and best just make a bit of cash or a bit of base catch percentages, then one of course now goes in here with a classic combination, feeding the grass carp, the Amur here rather, and raising the population again. This here is the classic grass carp ground bait mix. Here now on hemp seed meal, linseed, corn, and coriander. If we rebuild this ground bait mix, we can of course vary it again. That means we then take the original grass carp ground bait mix and add feed pellets raspberry in addition. And as a fourth component, one could bring in something like pumpkin seed or hemp again, and then one would have a complete ground bait mix here, specially also again aimed at grass carp, and again steered in the direction of the bait that we're using here right now. Yes, however, I am rather searching for the gold tench. That would be even more interesting than finding another grass carp here, and therefore we just see whether over time now a gold tench comes in. The whole thing of course can take time. Gold tench is super rare, and with lots of luck one goes in once. Still, one must of course keep testing it again and again, and especially here at the spot, that is at 5531 here. At this spot it's running currently always quite well again. Also last week it ran already quite well here with the gold tench. They were caught again and again simply on cheese cube. So that is indeed possible. So if you therefore want to come here with your feeder rods, you can certainly do that. Always remember to have sufficient line capacity on the reel. So preferably towards 200-meter line on the reel, then you're relatively safe here. Thus, if you now go here with about 14 or 15 kilograms drag strength, pay attention that, as said, better more line on your reel than that your line is especially thick, because from especially thick line, you of course don't get much line on your reel. And what helps you the thick line, if you can't stop the fish with 14 kg drag strength and the fish just bolts and you cannot catch up. Accordingly, pay attention. Enough line capacity, as said, around 200 meters is not wrong. Then one is relatively safe entering the water here. So up next, the next Amur. That is already not bad. Yes, and I now actually leave it first as it is. We just look at the various rigs. The whole thing here, of course, clipped at 17E, as always at the spot, because at 17E distance, we have muddy bottom back there. If one goes back to 15 meters, one still has grassy bottom there. That means we are relatively exactly in this edge area between the grassy bottom and then the muddy or slimy bottom. And regarding the rigs, I'm using pop-up. As said already, raspberry complete, so raspberry mace kernel and raspberry cream as dip. And here it's going with a size 1 hook even. Relatively short hook length, only 15 centimeter hook length. And that is, as said, the normal pop-up tage. And the second rig is the Hincheth rig. I don't use that too frequently, but I just wanted to test 3 pop-up rigs here, and accordingly I also included that rig again. Here I currently have 30 centimeter hook length, so somewhat longer again. I didn't want to go much longer with it actually. Take care. We must, for the Hinch rig, of course, assemble another extra hook link. So that must be a special hook link. In this case, I also use fluorocarbon. Maybe I'll even build another one immediately, which is a bit shorter again. So that from the comparison, it's also a bit more realistic. And the third is the Shottrick. Shottrick also always fish with a relatively short hook length and with special hooks. These here are shot hooks. The shot rig hooks have a bent eye, so to speak, and the info about that you find, however, also again in the text in the shop. Hensif Rick and Shottrick, or simply in the shop, pay attention. There you repeatedly see the hooks that have this kink here at the top at the beginning. Compared to the normal standard hooks, that is, I believe, a significant difference. So clearly kinked here at the top at the start of the hook. If we now, of course, want to adjust the spot somewhat to tench, then we go here, of course, in with ground bait mix, and of course want to influence the spot. We can throw the ground bait mix in ball form, throw it out dry, or as PVA. That doesn't matter. Bait is bait. It simply influences the spot here in the case. Since we are only at 17-meter distance, we can gladly just take the ball. That means we start for tench fishing, of course, with cornflower, then also take again corn as component, since we also use that as bait. Then comes in here once only raspberry as feed pellets. Here I take the largest. Additionally, I also again take sweet cream feed pellets and mix the whole thing also here with the condensed milk. So very milky aromas. And then also, as said again, condensed milk. So a sweet thickened milk, concentrated milk. And we do that then here at the end again with raspberry as aroma. So, and this is now here a sweet milky raspberry slime ground bait mix. And I hope that it is accepted in that way. This ground bait mix you cannot reproduce in the dry mix because this condensed milk, it is liquid. And you of course cannot use that in a dry mix, then it is no longer dry. There you can then of course use milk powder. That works then also for PVA fishing with the dry ground bait mix, or else for the bait rocket. And here it continues, of course, in the meantime. That's how it should be. Yes. And now in the night, we will shortly influence the entire spot again a bit. So again, out here to the 17 MIP, cast very easily. And now I take the ground bait mix from earlier. This here is the ground bait mix, and we are now using it here on 17 M distance. That means I must get back there approximately. If we cast maximally, we go out about 20 meters. Because now, of course, I want to be at 17 meters, I simply go a few meters further back, then cast maximally there. And accordingly, I land now pretty exactly. Yeah, that should be the area in this zone. Additionally, we have a radius of effect of 2.5 meters around the point of impact. And accordingly, we should actually hit the area quite well now and also feed the right area. And I now first cast in about 10 to 15 little balls. That should then initially adjust the spot. That of course takes a bit of time until it really takes effect. But I think at the latest in the morning hours, it really gets going. So, and on the ground bait mix itself, we also see above the duration of action. So how long the ground bait mix works. Here we have now just read 19 hours long it works. That one can already keep in view. That means in the evening hours, one can perhaps throw in again 5 or 6 feed balls so that the spot then in the evening hours, namely in the next evening hours, is really active. Yes, that's how it looks right now here at the spot. Testing, testing, testing. Just cast in here the route with different rig types. Why this whole thing with the different rig types? Because rig types have like factors. That means it's quite possible that in 1 week pop-up rig works better, in the next week chop rig works better, and in the week after next, again pop-up rig works. Or simply the hen rig works. So it constantly varies from fish to fish, and depending on preference we must of course always try again. So much for now. I think in the night, not so much will happen first. At night there is always a bit less going on, and then I look shortly what happens in the morning hours, and whether here actually also the Golden Tench comes in. That would of course not be wrong, but with the Amur I am so already quite satisfied, and they can still even now bite really well here with sweet ground bait mixes, so we'll wait and see. If it helped you, leave a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, helps me mega, and then we'll see you in the next video or in the next live stream. Until then, tight lines.